Welcome back to the Perfect Storm. We wanted to add some flavour to the show. Houston, you are the flavour.
Glad to be here. Yep.
A Houston flavoured show.
Welcome, Houston.
Houston, the Ford. And I always say, Houston, we have a
Solution.
Ford.
problem. We have a problem. My name's Justin Lawman, and that's Phil Yates. And we're in the Canberra studio of Faith FM.
Yes.
It's true. You're listening from around the country, unless they've decided to turn us off in some states.
We've been banned in many places, but we're still here.
A bit of a slow news day, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Real slow, mate.
Yeah, nothing happening in the world. Not a thing.
Yeah, there's a bit going on. From this moment on, America's decline is over, says one man. A thread detailing his most influential executive orders. Number one, granting pardons to January 6 prisoners or hostages, he says.
Jan 6 hostages, 1,500 of them.
And 6 or 14 commutations of, I guess, people that are in trouble that they want to look into a little bit further.
Well, a commutation, you're commuting it, but you're not pardoning. It's a lesser thing.
Does that mean you just put
They
it on
still have
hold
a record.
Right.
Their record will remain, but if you're pardoned, you're cleared.
So
And
could they put them, if they research them a bit more, could they decide to throw them back in?
I guess they could, but I don't think they will. No,
So why does the president have the power to pardon?
it's America, Constitution. By the way, you know that before Biden left office, he commuted all these officials, Milley and the Jan 6 committee and Shift.
And his family.
His family. Well, what they're saying on Trump's side is the Justice Department still has to ratify that. But it's now Trump's Justice Department, and they're not going to. So they're saying these aren't going to stand. Whether that is actually the case, but that's a bit of a trick. They said he waited to the last minute, and that's going to be to these people's chagrin because he's actually his Justice Department can ignore that. So because they're preemptive, it's ridiculous. I could get my mate here, Houston. I'm the president, and Houston, I need you to go and murder all my enemies. But before I leave office, and they don't even know you've done it, I'm going to pardon you for all that. You can't. That's no way to do law and order. This is ridiculous.
We can't pardon Houston before he's... Yeah, that's right.
Convicted.
Before he has a problem.
The idea of a pardon is someone's convicted of something, they're guilty, but the president looks at it and he thinks, and historically they did this. There'd be some guy on death row and he's had a real conversion or something happened and his life's turned around. And so the president, rather than this guy rot in prison or go to the chair, he'd commute his sentence as an act of mercy. This is just dodgy now. This is no longer showing grace and mercy. This is dodgy. From both sides, this is dodgy.
What did Trump do that was dodgy?
Well, he's already got them all hung, drawn and quartered without any trials. So I just think they're already got them in jail before they're even got back in there when they should be saying, we're going to investigate this. We're not sure. It looks really bad. But no, they're all going, and that's why they've reacted this way. I think they should. A Western society built on the principles of Scripture lets there be a fair process of a trial and a jury of their peers and da-da-da-da-da. But, man, we've deteriorated as the West has deteriorated, Houston.
There is a compilation of Democrats saying that she should never have a preemptive pardon because that assumes guilt. So,
100%.
They've changed their tune since Trump was last out. So, let's Trump back in office and here's Rangry. What can we get an explanation on Rangry from a ranger?
A rangry person is a redhead that's angry, and there's anger, and then there's redheaded anger.
Yeah.
How would I know about such
Well,
things,
you're
Phil?
so calm, Justin.
I'm
How does this come
always
about,
calm, mate? I'm like the calmest guys ever walked.
mate? I don't know
earth.
how you'd even know about it.
Rangry is redheaded angry, and
Okay.
Trump is he's the chief ranger in the world. There's a club of us rangers. Your beard's getting close there, Huey.
Yeah, look,
what
Huey's a
side are
ranger.
you on here?
I'm trying.
Huey's 100% a ranger. Have you
He's
seen
got
his,
some-
his son?
He's
Yeah,
a
my
forward.
son
You know
is
the
a ranger.
forwards are Vikings, so he's harking back to the ancestors.
I've got
there.
a little bit of ranger in me.
You
A
have
little
to.
bit in the beard.
There you go. Rangry is redheaded angry. And Trump, he laid down a speech, folks. If you're listening to the radio, his inauguration speech, he's got Biden 6 feet behind him, and he's just tearing him to shreds. That takes some doing. That a normal person is really not able to do that unless you are Rangry. And he is redheaded angry.
Is that a legitimate term that people have come out with
That's
lately?
one I use. Yeah, people use it all the time for redheads getting angry. They call them they're rangry. Ranger, because Australians, sorry if you're listening to this overseas, Australians call redheadeds ranger after the red-haired orangutan, rangus. I'm happy to be a ranger. I
It's a
don't care.
technical term.
It's a technical term. and angry. So if you add the two, a ranger that's angry is rangry.
I've got a question. Can only a ranger call another ranger?
Oh, I don't care.
Anyone?
I've been
you
called a lot worse. Late for dinner.
There
What-
is a song.
Oh, what was it specifically about his speech? I've tried looking for like clips and highlights, but
He's
there's
just
actually
contrasting. We've been under this oppression. The Justice Department has been, terrible, doing all these terrible things. Now at last we can be free. Now at last, you look at all the other presidents that have taken office. They give a nice, respectful speech, thanking, and talking about the great country, where he's just contrasting what he's about to do with these terrible things that have been happening. It's one after the other after the other. It
Huge
is
wave. There's a huge wave on his whole male and female thing.
Yeah, there's only now
Everyone's
two
up
genders.
in arms about two genders.
Well, I'm not. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, not everyone, but
Yeah. No, the majority of Americans love it. Majority.
So
Maybe-
it was an inspiring speech.
maybe write in the comments. If you're watching
Well-
this on YouTube, write in the comments what you thought of Trump's speech. We'd like to know.
It was vengeful and angry is what it was.
Rangry.
It was rangry. It takes one to know what.
So preemptive pardons. What would you do if you were in their situation? If they're afraid that Trump's just going to throw them in jail for no reason, and that's their excuse for
Use the courts.
Trump hasn't done
Judges.
any preemptive pardons, has he?
no. He
No,
hasn't.
but the Democrats have. Well, Joe Biden's administration has issued all these preemptive pardons to all these people that are clearly feeling a little fragile because they know the January 6th committee destroyed all the evidence because it incriminates them and what their actions that led to the jailing of those 1,500 people. This is corruption. And so, I've been corrupt. Pardon me, please, so I can get out of it. The consequences for your actions should never be removed. God, look at King David in the Bible. He does all this stuff and God forgives him, but the consequences were still there. You can be forgiven by God, but the consequence, we all live under the consequences. And how dare they dodge the consequences?
So
I think
just
it's disgusting.
for clarity, what happened January 6th?
There's
For
a
those who don't know.
Okay, there's a protest march. There's about 1 million people at the Capitol in
Yep.
this protest march.
Who's in office?
Trump,
Yep.
but he's lost the election.
Okay.
And January 6th is when the electors, which is every state, they bring their electors because people say America's a democracy. It's built on democratic principles, but it's actually a constitutional republic. It's a little different. And so every state brings its electors, and each state has, a number of them, and then they say at the Congress who they're going to put in as president after they've held their elections. The states run all the elections for the president. And they had a plan because Trump thought there's dodgy stuff going on here, and they were going to actually challenge that process, which has been done again in history. Anyway, what happens is, as they've marched from the protest in Washington over to the Congress, this is where it gets really dodgy, and it's about to come out. The police, Trump's asked for the National Guard, at least 500 soldiers to be there. You wanted 5,000. So nothing bad could happen. All the barricades that would stop them walking in, they removed them. And people in the crowd who have never been charged, 1,500 people charged, like 76-year-old woman who's standing outside on the lawn goes to jail for 3 years, standing on the lawn.
Wow.
This is absurd. They've let them go in. It's like, I think it's a bit of a setup. The pipe bomb, the classic pipe bomb at the DNC, which turns out it's as dodgy gets. It wasn't real at all. All of that is about to come out. There are busloads of these fake protesters coming in that actually are in the crowd. And the FBI admits, we had 26 people in the crowd, but it's going to come out.
Like
We'll
agents.
just wait and
There's
see.
26 agents.
They won't say they're agents.
Okay.
They won't say they're agents, but they're saying
Well, if they're in the
assets.
FBI, they're
Yeah, well, they could be
assets.
informants or whatever.
Yeah.
The extent they've gone to prosecute people over standing on the lawn. Now, there was some bad behaviour, but you can watch the video. There's dodgy stuff going on. And there's a very good reporter in the US, Revolver News. He has extensively shown this is a government operation. That whole day was a big setup. They pulled back the police and they let this stuff happen. They said for ages.
Here's a video of. Let me go back. This is January 6th Capitol riots compared to a regular sale at a shopping centre.
Wow.
Here's the sale at the shopping centre at the bottom.
Okay, just contrasting that.
Yeah, Black Friday sales.
So that whole thing was very political, and I think it's been a bit of a setup.
Okay.
And they banked on this big scheme that they could get all Trump and his supporters forever out of politics, saying they're insurrectionists. It failed.
So tons of people have gone to jail because of Jan 6.
1,500 people.
And now Trump's gone, you're out.
He's releasing them. They're still holding them. As we're doing this radio recording on a Wednesday, they're still holding up, letting them out. The judges are slow walking it.
There's still some that are, but some are out. But
Some are out.
DC, they're holding it up.
They're holding it up in DC. They're in jails around America.
What's the setup for? If you think of it's a
To
setup.
make Trump and his side look like domestic terrorists. These guys are extreme terrorists. We have to stop them with all the power of the state. It's failed. It's failed. And all the truth will come out. The January 6th committee, who they banned, had all the evidence and they only show half it. And then they said, well, they got sued for, we want all the evidence. They destroyed it. That's so illegal. You'll go to prison for that. And these guys are senators and congressmen. So let's see what happens, because I'm telling you now, what they're going to do, if the Justice Department ignores that, they will prosecute them. But just say that stands that somehow the president has this power to preemptively pardon people. Well, what they'll do then is sue those people for damages. I was in prison for 3 years and you destroyed evidence and everything. So then they'll take them to court in a civil court, not a criminal court. And they'll sue Liz Cheney to say, I was 3 years of my life, my wife left me, my kids hate me, I lost my job and all that. I need $10 million, thank you, and take them to court and sue them. That's what will happen. This isn't far, far from over. And the deep state or the globalist side of politics has not left yet.
So who pays the bill, the government or the person?
Liz Cheney's personal wealth pays the bill.
Right.
So they're not like protected behind an LLC when they're working for the government.
They said policemen were murdered. They were killed. And on the street, people still think no policeman was killed or murdered on that day. The only police officer that died went home that night and had a stroke and died at home. So they make out all this stuff. The people that were killed, Babbitt, this lady was shot by, Ashley Babbitt was shot through a door by a police officer. It didn't need to happen. That police officer should be charged with murder because that was not fair. That was illegal what he did, but he's never been charged. So this is far from over, folks. This is like, get your popcorn, Houston.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, what is this leading to now?
Close to the mic here, mate.
What is this leading to?
If you do it one more, hang on. If you just do that one more time, Houston, go.
What is this leading to?
Put this.
No, he's got the different things.
If only I knew how to use this sound desk.
Come on.
Sorry.
It's going to lead to ongoing political battles. But I'm saying to the listeners at home, globalism is dead. The current Pope is despised by conservative Catholics because he's a globalist. What his stances on climate change and legal immigration are, that's globalism. He's despised, and I hear them attacking him all the time, like Catholics attacking the Pope. When in our lifetime have we ever heard that? Globalism is dead.
So when's the Pope changed? Popes only change at death.
When they die, yeah. A couple of times in history, and Ratzinger was the last one who actually stepped down while he's still alive. I don't know what happened there, but all over the
that's
world,
probably another show.
all over the world, globalism is dead now, and it's going to Trump signs these 200 orders. He leaves the World Health Organization, who America gives $500 million a year to that, and he just said, "No, we're not."
Withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement.
The Paris Climate Agreement and offshore, they were going to do all these windmills. No, we're not. Everything that globalism's trying to achieve, no, we're not. So this is juicy. This is really big. America is going through a realignment like it's never gone through in a short period of time. And we watch this space, folks. Watch this space.
But this isn't little. Like what Trump's doing is not little alignment. This is like
No, it's massive.
it's massive alignment, but it's massive alignment immediately.
I'd say it's probably bigger than I could have ever imagined somebody would jump. Like you've never seen something so radical happen so fast.
There's a lot of people with targets.
He
on their
sat
back.
there and signed 200 orders.
So
And-
number 2, designating drug cartels as terrorist organizations, which is going to impact possibly Mexico.
But he's making comments. This one's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, see, Houston, what do you do with drug cartels?
What do you do with them?
Yeah.
You get rid of them.
How do you do that? Because the police can barely cope.
Military.
They have so much wealth. They've embedded themselves in all of American society. So they're all over the place.
Navy SEALs.
So now that he signed an order and said, you are now a terrorist organization, whoops, there's the American military. Drones, satellites, submarines, aircraft carriers, Air Force, Special Forces, everyone now can be taken onto the chessboard and say, I want you to remove this cartel from our society and Mexican society. And do you think the American military could do that with their eyes closed?
Well, even the cartel, like, I don't know how powerful cartels are, but they couldn't handle that. There's no way they can handle that.
No way.
Can they go into Mexico and to go into their society and do this?
Well, who would stop them?
So
No
somebody,
one's going to stop them, but is that a...
I think it was Peter
legitimate-
Ducey, actually asks him this while he's signing it. And he says, does that mean that America's going to enter Mexico to deal with these terrorist organizations? And Trump just says, well, crazier things have happened. You never know.
Well, this is how Trump, the art of the deal, this is how he works. Okay, you won't let us go in and get them. You know how you make all these cars in Mexico for General Motors and Ford, or your Ford Rangers made in Mexico? He'll say, we're going to put 100% tariff now on all your cars. But, of course, if you let our military come in, we won't tariff you. and they'll say, "Oh, please come in with your soldiers. Yeah, come on in." This is how he
Yeah. Well, the
how he
government's-
negotiates stuff.
Surely the
He's a
government's not gonna
businessman.
protect the cartel. Well, they get pays off.
Mate,
pay off.
the government is controlled by the cartels.
Yeah.
There's so much money involved in the drug trade.
Executive order against radical gender ideology. Whereas previously the government, well, I first remember the Obama government sort of really giving this thing a leg up with same-sex marriage and with the non-gender bathrooms. How do you say that? Bathrooms.
Gender neutral
bathrooms. Did that not all come in under Obama and then has been supported by the government since?
I think, well, Clinton started it with don't ask, don't tell in the military with gay and lesbian servicemen. But they've been paying the US military, if you join the army and you say, I want to have a sex change, they are paying their soldiers to have this, they're paying for the surgery. That ends. And the guy that they're putting in, Peter Hegseth, in charge of the Department of Defense, that's been his crusade for years. Everyone he's chosen, Trump, he's chosen to get this stuff, not just at his level. What he's done this time, he's got an alignment down the hill from him. And that's what every organization tries for. We try in this conference to get an alignment. What we're talking about at the top, we're talking about right through it. So we're all doing the same thing, aligning. He is so much smarter this time, Trump, because of his last term. Last time he got in, it was chaos. The FBI is entrapping him in the Russia gate. He employs someone and they turn on him. It's a dog's breakfast.
Yeah.
Not this time. He's got now alignment. You watch this time. Everyone on the left, they are genuinely scared because he's worked out how they operate and he's getting ahead of them. Those 200 executive orders were not cooked up yesterday morning. He's had teams of lawyers and his team working on how we're going to out-hedge these people, how we're going to outflank them and work out so we win this time. And we win for 50 years. They're not planning to lose the next election. They got J.D. Vance ready to go. So this is running deep. And, folks, there's going to be an alignment in American society. As Carl said, he'd never seen anything like this in this short a time. It won't end with just the military. There's financing, and, of course, there's the spiritual. But we'll come to that in a minute. We'll get to that.
Ending birthright citizenship for illegal immigrants. So previously, I believe the law was this. If you're an illegal immigrant but you have a baby in the country,
Constitution says it.
The baby becomes a citizen of your country, right?
Yep.
No longer.
So
how do they get that out of the
Constitution? If Huey goes on holidays to America, right when his sweet wife is about to have a baby, the baby's born in America, it can be a citizen of that country. So they're coming across the Rio Grande 8 months in and the baby's born there. And even though they're illegal immigrants, that child now is an American citizen for its whole life because it was born there. And, you know, Australia doesn't do that. No other country in the world that I know of does that. This has been an incredible, generous act of America that anyone born there will be a citizen. He's revoked that, and that has been coming for a long time.
How do you get that out of the Constitution?
There'll be a lot of court cases, and I think it's going to end up. I don't know, but there'll be whether he has the authority to do that. I would question, but he's showing that's the direction they're going to go in, and that's what the populist nationalist does. It's America first. Everyone else doesn't even get a look in.
Yep. Now, I think this next one's something that Australia needs to consider. Unleashing Alaska's potential as a national energy reservoir. Is this drill, baby, drill?
Oh, yeah. How is Australia going to do that with Alaska?
Well, we don't have an Alaska, but we're exporting more LNG, more gas than Dubai. Countries making billions and billions of dollars off their coal and gas exports, and we've got the most, but we're making some of the least.
Yeah, that's tax because of the big corporations, and It's another issue, but yeah, Australians generally are not getting the benefit of all these natural resources. It's just the big corporations, which are often owned by overseas companies. So the average Aussie has no idea how much we're getting ripped off.
Do you know anything about getting ripped off at the pump, Huey? Do you drive a V8?
Occasionally, I know what it's like a little bit.
Mate, we heard your car start up. We were in a church somewhere this morning,
Someone
sitting
was
in a
speaking.
church, and then we hear this rumbling, and it's this Land Cruiser with a V8 in it. And I thought, oh, there's Rochelle.
There's Rochelle. Yeah, you know it when we're coming.
Holding former government officials accountable for unlawful disclosure. What does that mean?
Leaking.
Okay.
That they have strategically, when Trump was in the first time, they were leaking. He made a phone call to the Australian Prime Minister. Remember who he was? Do you guys remember who that was?
Kevin?
Malcolm
Turnbull.
the Turnbull has a conversation with Trump. Malcolm didn't like Trump, and that was pretty obvious. That phone conversation, which is highly confidential, someone in the government has happened to put that out into the Washington Post or New York Times, whichever it was. They leaked the whole conversation. Who was ever caught for that? No one. Well, now Trump, he's wiser. If you leak against me, here's a signature. Anyone that now leaks, they'll hunt them with the FBI with incredible technology, and that person will spend the rest of their life in a prison somewhere.
Wow.
Scaring people.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say, so this, what you said before about these 200 executive orders, this is how he's creating the alignment of the direction of America in the future. He's making everything, he's lining his ducks up,
He is.
so to speak.
Yeah, he's showing us his hand.
Yeah.
But big time, the people he's chosen for his cabinet, for these, the Senate has to confirm the head of the CIA and the head of the DOJ and the Attorney General and all the people he's chosen, they're all Trump aligned.
Can you explain how laws are different from executive orders?
No.
Nice.
I don't know. Well, this is from the
Google.
Do you have any other friends who can
America's-
come on the show next week?
America's got different branches of governance. So there's the executive branch, which is the White House and the everything around the president. There's a judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court, and then there's the Congress. What do they call that branch? The the legislative branch. Legislators make laws. Trump can't technically make laws, but he can make executive orders. And for the next 2 years until they have a midterm election in his presidency, he's got control. The Republicans have the Senate and the Congress. So they can legislate, make laws through the Congress in that time. So he'll write an executive order, and if that gets challenged in court or whatever, the Congress should just come in and make it a law. That's the difference. That's the difference.
The computer says the president has a large set of constitutional powers to enforce laws, which is legislation enacted by Congress. But the president can basically enact an order saying, from now on, things that I run will be run differently. The order controls what the president can control, but cannot overturn law or force other parts of government to do what the president wants. So it's basically anything that he has any power over, he can just make a decision.
Federal. Yeah, and he doesn't write laws. Executive orders are overturned by him, but he can't overturn laws. Congress has to do that.
He's also gone in number 11 here. President Trump signed executive order rescinding 78 executive actions from the Biden administration. So
Did you see Joe?
out with the old, in with the new.
You didn't watch it, did you?
No.
Poor old Joe. You're not looking well.
Mm.
He was grinning as Trump's sort of ripping him in the speech. Did you see Trump's son? How
Yeah.
tall he is?
Barron.
He seems to get taller every time he's on TV.
There's so many.
He's nearly 7 foot tall.
Oh, this is the young guy, hey?
his youngest boy,
yeah.
Barron.
Yeah, he's a giant.
He's a giant.
Yeah. And Trump's a big guy.
He's at least 6 foot something.
Yeah.
But he's towering over his
Yeah.
dad.
Yeah.
And he came up and shook Biden's hand.
This one here. So everything smiles. And then Barron comes along and shakes his hand, and then the facial expression changes significantly. They're wondering what he said.
He's bending down there to him.
The only suggestion that I've seen is that he said, "You forgot to pardon yourself."
That's nasty. He's a cheeky boy, isn't he?
Well, we don't know what he
The
said.
gloves are off. The point is, the gloves are off. There's a realignment happening. Will this be pretty? Will there be a lot of fights? And will this be messy? Yes. It's going to be very messy. This is a knife fight.
Popcorn is all we should grab.
Well, yeah, how's that going to play out here? The messiness over there.
We haven't spoken about the Fed. And if you're listening on the radio, Faith FM, we're in the Canberra studio. My name's Justin Lawman. I've got Phil Yates in Houston Forward and the preeminent Kyle Morrison.
Kyle, there's I think his middle name's the.
Preeminent.
What's that mean?
Kyle the Morrison.
The most important.
Oh, gotcha.
Preeminent.
Most important, least literate.
All of those things. So the Fed.
When I type in what will Trump do to the Federal Reserve?
Federal Reserve. Thank you.
After 2 years of smooth sailing, Fed ready to navigate rocky bond market Trump uncertainty. How Trump can control the Fed. What will Trump do to the U.S. economy? The end of the Federal Reserve as we know it. Why Trump and the Fed could clash. What Trump means for Fed independence. Trump's Fed appointments could shift monetary policy. There's a lot of discussion for a few years, about the storm that is coming.
But did all this come about with old mate saying he's not going to quit?
Well, no, it's come about for years because, we have to explain what the Federal Reserve is in America. Famously, the Rothschilds are involved in its formation and all that. It's a group of commercial bankers. They get appointed for so many years on the board of the Federal Reserve. They're not appointed through an election process like everyone else. Like Trump's been elected, not the Fed, but the Fed. Ben Bernanke is the chair of that, and they do get appointed for terms. The Fed has overseen these ridiculous printing of money, which has made the middle class and the lower class really poor by devaluing their currency. And that's been to help the big end of town. And so the populists who are against the big end of town, they want the Fed absolutely obliterated and sent to history. Ben Bernanke knows this, and he said the other day, they said, Houston, you're Ben Bernanke for a minute. I'm going to, what if Donald Trump asks you to step down? What will you do? Will you leave? He said, nope, twice, 2 different times they ask. So this is Rangry Trump. What was a Rangry?
Technical term.
What's he going to do next? The speculation is they don't need the Fed. The Fed controls monetary policy and the printing of money, the buying of bonds, the issuing of bonds, The talk is he's going to nationalize it, which means the president and the executive will become in charge of it and take control of it, and they'll appoint who's on it. Or they're going to replace it with something completely different. That will be put on your seatbelt, Huey, and your helmet and everything, and watch what happens in the world economy if they do that. And they've already had such words. Janet Yellen, who's the finance lady in the Biden administration.
Yeah, Yellen's a funny name.
Yellen announced Trump got inaugurated on Monday, and then she announced on the Friday before, we hit the debt limit on Tuesday morning at 9:00. Purely coincidence. The first day Trump's in office, they hit the debt limit. They've been spending like drunken sailors in the last few months. They hit the debt limit. So now technically they can't raise any more debt until they increase through the Congress and Senate, they increase the debt limit. The Trump's in a jam. They've done that deliberately to him. So these guys are in an absolute knife fight. And I reckon the Federal Reserve, as it's existed from the time of its inception way back, and all these people sort of glaze over when you talk about the tech. Folks, this affects you and me big time. Big time. You got to do a bit of research. You got to get your head around what's going on in the world. This is going to be massive if Trump takes on the Fed and even replaces or takes it over.
So how does it affect us?
Because he's glazing over there. So
I'm glazing over.
Help him out.
What's the short version?
Well, when we hit the GFC, they just decided to print money.
The global financial crisis.
They print money, and I bought an Akubra hat a few years ago. I got it for $130 at the factory in Kempsey. Then it was Akubra was $180. They're going up, and then the other day I was in a shop, and that same hat is $320. An Akubra hat. How's that affected you? Is everything you buy is dearer and dearer and dearer and dearer? A Land Cruiser used to be real expensive. They were $50,000. Now they're 100 and something thousand. 156,000 top of the range Land Cruiser. 160 something.
And wage doesn't follow that.
Can't keep up.
Yep.
So how it's affected us is they've devalued the power of your dollar just by making trillions and trillions and trillions. That's been their policy, their monetary policy. So Australia matches it. And unfortunately, the whole world will follow what America does. We just have to.
Yep.
So it's going to affect us, what you can buy, whether you're going to be poor, rich, or otherwise. It really will affect you.
And crypto is becoming a hot talking point here. President just created $75 billion in market value overnight without printing any money. Have you heard about this? So there's this Trump meme coin, basically, that he's released, and basically within a day, I think it was 14 billion, and then I guess it's up to 75 billion now. I don't have any. I'm not pumping my own bags here, but there's lots of theories about what they're actually trying to do, but basically to create stability and surety around what crypto can be. Trying to legitimize the industry by being part of the industry and holding it themselves. So there's a lot of theories about what might be part of the strategic reserve, the crypto strategic reserve of the US government.
And will that help us if there is a economic crisis with just cash and actual dollars?
Depends if you hold the right crypto, I guess.
Well, gold today, in when we're going to air, is 4,367 or something like that, 49 or something. It's high as I've seen it. It's crazy high. The world economy is so indebted. This can't go on. This massive bubble. What are they going to do? I don't know what they're going to do, but this is now a realignment, and it's not only political realignment. It's not only social with agenda and all of those issues surrounding. It's also economic. There's a massive economic realignment going, and Elon Musk is trying to get $1 trillion out of their spend. The government is spending $2 trillion more than they earn every year. $2 trillion a year, and he's trying to get that so they can just spend what they earn. Now that's going to affect everything we do. Wow. That's going to affect the world economy, and they have to do it.
They were saying just pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord itself would save $1 trillion over the 4 years.
Well, he's already done that.
Yeah.
World Health Organization, 500 million.
Yeah.
So they're going to find savings.
This is the price of gold since 2006. It's gone from around 755 up to
American dollars, we're talking?
a high of $3,000. I think this is in AUD.
No, 3,000 would be American.
Gold price, AUD data. Okay.
It's US dollars because today we're
4,300.
4.3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Going up.
4.373. It's going crazy. Folks, realignment happening everywhere. Politics, military, social, gender, all that stuff. Economic. But there's one more area, Kyle.
Well, let's go AI and then come to that.
Well, there's more than
There's
one
two more
area,
areas.
isn't there? Two
Let's
more
go two
areas.
areas. Sorry to ruin your moment. That was
Sorry.
a good moment.
No, I was trying to
was
sort of
building that as a
segue. Did you see that segue?
That was a closer.
That was a
and we're ready
segue
to
and a
go
half,
into it.
and he
I think we
crushes
should
it.
go into it.
Could have been the moment of the show, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Wow.
Stargate. Have you seen this? $500 billion invested into Stargate, which is going to be some massive AI data center built by America, owned by America. Yeah, they want to be the world leaders in AI, which is one of our 5 areas that this
It
show
is.
focuses on. We don't know what it is yet, but we'll learn, and you can comment, teach us, give us some links. But he's not holding back. He's going big. And I had another article here. There's not that one. This one here. Have you seen this? We've secured already nearly $3 trillion of new investment in the United States. They've got this guy from SoftBank. Do you remember? I think we played the clip. He was going to invest $100 billion in America, and Trump said, "Why don't you make it 200?"
Japanese guy. Yeah, that's
He's
right.
come back and said, "I'm going to make it 500
Wow.
over 4 years. I'll do 500 billion." And he said, "It's because you asked me to go extra, and because you won. It's the only reason we can do this." So he's starting with 100 billion right now, and then he'll find the rest.
AI is a new industrial revolution. It's such a game change. And if any country, and you might criticise the Australian government's building a supercomputer, I'm saying better hurry up, fellas, because every country on earth is doing it. And if you don't win this race, you can't win the next war. You can't win the next anything because it's such a game change. And America, with its entrepreneurs like Elon Musk and the crew, look at where he had Bezos at his inauguration. He had the head of Apple, the head of Google, the head of
Sam
Meta.
Altman from AI.
Everyone who's anyone in that.
OpenAI.
The rest of the world
Well,
is
no.
a midget compared to America's power in
Michelle
this space.
wasn't there.
Who, Phil?
Michelle.
Why not?
Don't know.
I reckon
Didn't
they're
turn up.
separated.
I heard that he's now dating Jennifer Aniston.
I might have heard that too. We
is-
don't
I don't know
speculate
how
on
true
this
that
show
is.
much. Anyway,
It's wild.
time will tell.
That's wild.
We're not going to go there.
I do not endorse their opinions or
No,
Or
Faith FM
speculations.
distances itself from anything we
Yes.
say.
quite often. So the final segue that Justin was shooting for is the spiritual realignment of what? Of everything?
I thought your transition was way better.
I did too. What do you think, Houston? Let's have a vote.
Yeah,
you're definitely better at
Kyle just-
transitioning than me.
That was like a side note.
It was, wasn't it?
What the one Justin was
basically
referring
The
to
point of this show, folks, is to get you spiritually awake
Amen.
to what's happening in the world. We talk about all this other garbage, which politics is garbage. I'm sorry. Who cares about all that stuff? Well, we do because it's all linked to the spiritual.
Yes.
It's linked to the spiritual. They are not divorced. They are not divorced.
Michelle and Barack.
No, we're not.
The issues are not
battery, sorry.
divorced from the spiritual issues. It's not compartmentalized. And Trump in his speech acknowledged God. Hello, I've been cut off there. Thanks for that.
No, you're back on.
I'm back on. Okay. My earphones went dead.
Oh.
Trump acknowledged God. He acknowledges the spiritual. He said he was saved from that assassin's bullet
God save me.
because I have to save America. This is a very spiritual movement, but I'm not saying it's a biblical movement. It's a spiritual one, but I'm not necessarily agreeing with the nature of the spirituality. And I am actually very, very troubled by what they're trying to do in the realm of the spiritual. And it seems to me it's like Paul says in Timothy, where he says they'll have a form of godliness but deny the power thereof. The gospel is the power of God. And you repent as a sinner. That's how you come to God. not because you have an eternal purpose of saving a country. You confess your sins and he forgives you. You accept Christ as your personal savior and you walk under his lordship. That's the only true spiritual revival. A political spiritual revival is not one at all. And that's what we are witnessing. That's what we're witnessing, and
Agreed.
it should be freaking you out at home. If you're asleep at home about what's going on in the world, wake up. Wake up, because it's coming, and it's coming quickly to a country near you.
So
And
what-
it is inadvertently a biblical movement in that it's a fulfillment of prophecy, right?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
It doesn't condone what's happening, but it's prophesied.
It said it would.
So it is biblical what we're seeing in that sense.
It's freaking me out, man.
Yeah.
So did you guys see what this lady had to say, Bishop Marianne
she's-
Edgar?
Way on the left, and she's pushing everyone right. Listen to this lady.
Oh,
You, don't play it. It's too painful, mate.
we could
Make
just a little
one
bit.
final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people.
Man, she
She
sounds
went on
scared.
and on
Am
about
I allowed to ask
illegal immigrants and
why they would fear for their lives?
because they've got themselves in such a state. They've never had more freedom, never had more rights. And in a free and open society like the Western world is, this is just pushing everyone further to the right. That's what they don't get. They are creating the future, and it's a future of intolerance. It's a future of hatred and zeal against that stuff. She didn't help anyone by saying what she did. She harmed that community that she's talking
exposed them.
about. As Christians, should be the most tolerant people in town. But they're creating such intolerance by their extremism that they do story hour, transgender, drag queen story hour to kids.
at their churches.
That makes me so angry. It might make me rangry that they'd pull kids into this stuff. Like, okay, that's your journey. You can't have that journey, but don't inflict it on kids. Let kids be kids for a while. They'll have to deal with all that later. And so there's a shocking reaction back. And you can see the world is just getting cornered and funneled down this path, straight, as you said, Houston, to the fulfillment of Bible prophecy.
Well,
What if people want to know about Bible prophecy?
that's a great question.
That was a segue.
That was a good
Phil.
segue.
Did you see that?
Awesome.
You see that?
You know how to transition too. So the offer today is for the study guide. If you don't have one yet, you need to get your hands on them. They sell out frequently.
Yep.
But we're not selling them today. We're giving them away. And so you can get one by texting the word study, just the word itself, and we'll get your details afterwards to 0482 082 876, and we will send somebody with that book to your door to make sure you get it. And if you want somebody to study it with, just ask the person who delivers it to you.
Have
What's
you
that?
used this before, Houston?
A few times.
Have you?
How many times?
More than a few, actually.
40
So
times a
you're
week.
lying then. That's what we've determined. Well.
What's that number again, Kyle?
0482 082 876. Text the word study and we will get a study guide. Now, why would the average person want one of these? And how will it help them understand more about what we're talking about today?
Well, this systematically goes through the Bible and some of the things that you need to know about in the Bible. So each lesson has an intentional verse after verse after verse. just giving you a broad, it's the broad spectrum of the Bible and what the different things that the Bible teaches in Christianity. And, at the end, there's some great stuff on prophecy as well.
Amen.
Amen.
We want. I can't wait to do the show when he releases the JFK files.
Yeah. And
The implications of this is so massive for how the average citizen looks at their government.
not just that, if they do release any of the 9/11 papers,
there's heaps and heaps and heaps of stuff.
Okay, fun times ahead. We've gone long today. Amazing. Look what you do, Huey. The Huey effect.
Hey, look,
The Houston effect.
here a week.
Go. Here a week. Okay, we'll try and do another show this week with Houston. Thanks for your time. We will see you on the next one.